just do a little quick intro. I'd like to thank the great Sal Licata for joining this podcast is Thirsty with us. He is a famed WFAN producer. Now does a ton of work on SNY. He's previously worked for WOR, WFAN, an old Suffolk Community College guy, I believe.
Yeah.
Who then worked at the Home Depot, but then it all changed for him as he became an intern with WFAN way back in 2003. And then obviously he worked a ton with the famed Mike and the Mad Dog, and I guess the rest is history, Sal. But all that said, this is a Seinfeld podcast. Now, my guess is you're about, 39, 40 years old?
I am 41, actually.
41.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So you're about a year younger than us.
Yeah,
So
42.
when did you start to get into Seinfeld?
Oh, man, great question. I would say a few years after it, like, what was the original season? 89 or something like that?
89.
Or 90? Yeah, okay. So I would say, I don't know, maybe 94, 95-ish. And I remember watching it at night religiously when it was on later, not necessarily the live stuff on Thursday night NBC,
PIX.
not until later years.
PIX.
Yeah.
I would watch it all the time in high school, and then usually that into like Letterman. I love Letterman, but I was not an original 8 o'clock Thursday night or whatever time it was on until maybe 97 or 98, until the last couple of seasons.
Now it's interesting, the Letterman connection. That's like how my brother got into it. He saw Seinfeld on Letterman and things like that. Did you just get into the show organically when it was on, like you said, the 11 o'clock hour? Or
you know what's weird? I don't even remember how it started, other than maybe catching it on TV. I just remember when I was in high school that at night, after whatever Met game I'd be watching, I'd watch Seinfeld, and then I loved watching The Late Show with David Letterman at 11:30. So it was probably one into the Mets, into Seinfeld, into Letterman. I don't know if there was a connection or what. I don't know if a friend put me onto it or my parents. I honestly don't remember, other than when I discovered it, naturally I thought it was the greatest thing ever.
That's interesting because Mets were on Channel 9, the Yankees were on PIX, and Seinfeld was on PIX. You were switching channels. Go back to watch Seinfeld.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, I watched the Yankees too, but not
of course.
the Mets, of
Yeah,
course.
Yeah, that's yeah. There's a real Letterman Seinfeld connection. Al Dukes had the same thing when we were talking to him about it. He was big into Letterman and Seinfeld at the same time almost. So with that said, so when you said you were watching in high school with the PIX year, so were we. We were, we joke about it in one of our earlier podcasts. Is we'd go in the next morning and just take up the first 25 minutes of our biology class just talking about the Seinfeld episode from the night before, and we'd even bring our teacher into it, Goldtor. Shout out to Mr. Goldtor. So did you have any buddies like that you were bouncing it off of, or were you like, because not everyone was into it. People have to kind of remember that too. Like it wasn't like everyone was talking about it, especially, in high schools and middle schools and things like that. Did you have like a group of buddies where you guys record lines and stuff back then?
Yeah. Two guys in particular, but one, probably my best friend growing up, my friend Vinny, who to this day, reference it all the time. We could watch them over and over. We'd have sleepovers and playing video games. We'd watch Seinfeld before you go to sleep. And yeah, that became just part of our friendship back then. We actually wore jerseys together to school all the time. We would be the two guys that wore jerseys and loved Seinfeld. I'm sure we weren't the only two that loved Seinfeld, but him in particular, I remember, still, like I said, to this day, still referencing all those episodes. Now that I think about it, one of my friends that I worked with at King Cullen, probably at around 96, which was my first job ever. I think my friend Chris Marino, he probably put me and Vin onto Seinfeld. And then, we started from there. So yeah, a couple people.
Nice.
Any favorite episodes that come to mind? I mean, we break down 168 episodes by season. So we love it all, but we're very critical as well. But I'm wondering if there are any like magical episodes that stand out for you, Sal.
It's, as you guys know, it's an impossible question to answer. What I will say is I think from season 3 on, I'm not opposed to the early episodes, but they're not my favorite. I've gone back and I haven't watched in a while. I used to watch religiously at night. I DVR them and watch them just as therapy. I probably could use it in my life again, but I went back and watched in chronological order, and I would go back again and do the same thing, which I might. It's one of my it's on my list of things to do. But to give you a one episode or two episodes, it's an impossibility. But my favorites are from 3 on. I love the one, and I forget the name of it, but the one where Jerry races Duncan.
The race.
Duncan, yeah, the race. There you go, the race. I love that.
We're working to get Duncan on the podcast. That's funny you said that.
Yeah, that's a great episode. Yeah, that's a great episode. He's eating onions, he's spotting dimes. I don't know what, but there's so many. There are every one of them. I mean, look, you could reference lines from every one of them, and the marine biologist. I mean, they're all. It's impossible for me to just pick one. So I have certain favorite moments from different episodes, but to say that this is my favorite episode or that is my favorite, and it's an impossibility with a show so great.
The race, the one you just touched on, we talked about this when we went over the race. The scene in that episode where George goes into the coffee shop, pretends he doesn't know Jerry to bring up the race is one of the greatest scenes of all time by far. I mean, when he was lying about being a millionaire. What's a canvas? He talks to us. Yeah,
it starts with Duncan.
Yeah. That's a great scene. That's one of our favorites. Yeah, we're trying to get Duncan on, man.
We just hit up Duncan because
just hit him up.
It was sadly the 24-year anniversary of that show yesterday.
Oh,
so we just sent a little tweet out, and then Duncan bit. So we'll see. But he'd be a great guest. So tell us a little about. I know you mentioned that both you had some interactions with Seinfeld and Larry David. I'm curious. You said Seinfeld was kind of walking around Astoria back in the day. Can you shed any light on that? Tell us a little story about Seinfeld at WFAN.
Now remember, I'm going based off of my memory here. And at the time, I wish I could remember the year. Here's how I'll go back and say it. I started interning there in January of 2003. I want to say that I was working there at the time Seinfeld came in studio to go on Steve Summers' show. Mike and the dog were there. They came out of the control room. Oh, hi, Mad Dog. Jerry was saying hi. Jerry had a hat on, was kind of keeping to himself. But I remember, unless I'm dreaming this, I remember him going around the newsroom. There was maybe 5 or 6 people in there, and looking everybody in the eye and shaking their hand. Even me, who was, if I wasn't an intern, I was still like a part-timer keeping to myself. And I remember being so impressed and in awe of a guy who, I mean, at the time too, even now, but at the time, especially where I just started getting into the business, I was in the peak of my Seinfeld fandom. He was probably a top 3 person that I'd want to meet in my life. So to be able to say, oh my goodness, I just shook Jerry Seinfeld's hand. I remember vividly him looking in everybody's eyes, shaking their hand, hi, I'm Jerry. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. I don't remember much about the interview, but that's what stuck out to me. And I do remember, I think it was a different time. I don't know if it was that same year or another time where Summers came on, where Seinfeld came on with Summers. But there was one time where the producer for Summers' show, this guy Mike DeMurgis, you have Jerry Seinfeld in studio with Steve Summers. That's the sell, right? That's the spot. Right. And he thought it would be a good idea because he was friends with Uncle Leo. He thought it would be a good idea to have Uncle Leo call in. So he had him call in on the show, Jerry, hello. And you're like, oh, yeah, hi, whatever. And it was just like, dude, you have Jerry. Why are you booking Uncle Leo to come on? It kind of fell flat a little bit and bothered Summers.
I like that idea. I'm shocked that Jerry didn't adhere to. So that was
he might have been okay with it, but
was Summers solo then, or 03, or was he with like the sweater?
No, he was solo. He was doing it was at night. It was he was after Mike and the dog at 6 or 6:30, and he had Jerry on. He was solo. So again, I think one time was in studio. It might have been the same time. I know Summers has had Seinfeld multiple times. It might have been that same spot that happened, but I remember him in studio only that one time. and that awkward
Yeah, it's a shame about the summer Seinfeld rift going on right now. We're trying to we want to mend that thing for them. We're trying to get them
I was
to,
shocked. I was shocked to hear that. I don't know. I kind of side with Seinfeld. Now, look, I love Steve. One of the nicest guys I've ever worked with. He was always great to me. But I kind of understand where Jerry is coming from a little bit, where, you have me as a friend. You're asking now me for the number or for the email, even though it happened before. I don't know. I could see how that could be a little touchy.
Yeah, I agree with you in a way. He could have handled a little bit better. Not just that's not what friends do. That's the line that seemed to really stick in Summer's crawl. He really took umbrage with it. Maybe he could have just said, "Listen, I can't do it. I'm sorry." Maybe give a little humor.
All right. I always thought the best thing or the funniest thing, naturally, most people are like us. We're obsessed with the show. Love it. Oh my God, Steve, Jerry Seinfeld, you email and talk to Seinfeld? Oh shit, Sal. Yeah, I used to hang out with him in the grocery store, and he told me the story of how they met or whatever. And meanwhile, Steve, as Gio alluded to the other day, Steve's not a Seinfeld fan. Not that he doesn't like him personally or didn't like him personally. He's not a fan of the show, just doesn't watch it, doesn't get it, doesn't care to, which I'm sure was part of the appeal to Jerry, because you get everybody in his life, oh my God, this is the greatest episode and I love the show, and Summers doesn't really care. So I'm sure that was part of their bonding.
So take us back to that when Jerry's walking around and Mike and the dog are there. So let me ask you this. Dog and Mike, Seinfeld fans? The show? I'm sure Mike is like, I know Jerry.
Yeah, good question. I would say that they're probably not. Not that they're anti, but I don't remember them being, ever talking about the show or being like, oh, I think that's funny. I don't think that they were, obviously they knew who he was and they know about the success. I don't think that they were necessarily big fans of the show. I just remember the interaction, dog's personality. Jerry comes out of the, during the break, comes out after a segment, comes out and, Jerry, how's my pal? And Jerry's a hi, man, dog. And then that was kind of it. Mike, so they exchanged pleasantries, and that was that.
So we always like to ask, especially when we have, guests that have a sports connection, favorite sports, Seinfeld kind of connections. We noticed the Falcons helmet in the background there. There's the old Bobby Hebert. When George says Bobby Hebert is right. He spells it out. That's a good one. And obviously there's a million with Steinbrenner and, the U.S. Open's involved. I mean, there's a ton. I don't want to put you in a spot, but anything stick out? Were you more? I mean, it sounds like you were more of a Met fan growing up, so a lot of the show did revolve around the Yanks, except for obviously Keith Hernandez episode.
Right. Well, the Keith stuff was great, obviously. The scene on the subway where they're talking about what the Mets need. Danny Tartable episode, and if Danny Tartable were here, there's all the sports stuff. I mean, I love that it was at least some part of the, going to the Orioles game where Elaine refused to take off the hat, Kramer getting hit in the head, Paul O'Neill. I mean, I don't have one in particular that I love more than the other necessarily. I think that they were all done brilliantly and love them all.
Did you become a Falcons fan because of George mentioning Bobby Hebert?
No, I liked my grandfather used to like the Braves. They were on free TV and they were good in the early 90s. So I started watching them with him. Deion Sanders was, for our age group, the most popular guy. I had so then I started liking the Braves. I liked Deion. Then I got a Deion jersey, which turned into a Falcons starter jacket. And those starter jackets, those pullovers were your identity. And then that just kind of snowballed. I mean, I remember thinking back in junior high or high school, what other kids in my class, what they wore. Oh yeah, that guy had a Giants one, or that guy had a Raiders or whatever. And Falcons just became my team. That was it. I kind of snowballed it from my grandfather's love for the Braves to Deion, to the starter jacket, and just took off right around the time Bobby Hebert was the quarterback, ironically, in about 90, I'd say, 91, 92.
I was always a Ron Gant guy, by the way.
There you go, Ron Gant, yeah.
So then you just continued with the Falcons?
I just stuck with it. Yeah, oddly enough, I just stuck with it. I kind of got away from the Braves. My grandfather, he passed away in 1993, which was odd. He died on the last day of that regular season game between well, it was the last day of the regular season in '93, which the Giants and Braves were tied in the NL West. Braves squashed the Rockies. Giants got crushed by the Dodgers. Braves go to the playoffs. Unfortunately, I never got to talk about that with my grandfather because we found out that he died that day. So a little sad story there. But after that, I kind of got off the Braves a little bit and went back to, rooting for the Mets. And remember, that was before that the Braves were in the same division as the Mets. So some people hear that and they say, well, how could you be a Braves fan and a Mets fan? The Braves were an irrelevant team as far as the Mets were concerned, and they were in the West all those years. So once they came in the same division and once the Braves finally won in '95, I kind of moved away from that, but always kept the Falcons.
Now, as a Mets fan, did it bother you that Seinfeld pushed the Yankees so much in the show?
No, it never bothered me. As diehard of a sports fan as I was, and I hated at the time, hated the Yankees. You're talking about the height of their dynasty. You're talking about, from a Met fan's perspective, I couldn't stand the Yankees then, but I never let that impact any of those moments in the show. I kept that separate for entertainment and comedic purposes.
Yeah, it was weird. It was interesting because the Yankees got good as Seinfeld progressed. Even early on, they still weren't great. Then like that '96 year, and then after that, and it was how it kind of happened at the same time. But yeah, the sports connections are always with Seinfeld. Just mentioning the Mets and also dating ourselves probably is in the first episode. I believe it's the first episode of Seinfeld. Jerry answers the phone. If you know what happened in the Met game, don't tell me because I taped it.
Yeah.
Because he just got home from
right.
like a comedy spot, whatever, probably 11 o'clock at night, and he had the video, tape, and the Kramer comes in and blows it for him, obviously. But that's always a good one.
Isn't it crazy how even things like that other people would look at, maybe if you didn't see the show before and you put it on now, right? Hey, let's binge watch this show. We've heard so much about it, never watched it. Things like that may seem dated to some, with an answering machine or taping games or no smartphone. The show still holds. I mean, I could still watch that today, and not even think that it's 20, 30 years ago, whatever it's been. It's crazy.
And what is it about, I guess, WFAN, right? Like the connection with Seinfeld, whether it's you, Al Dukes,
Lepresti,
Cardinal, Lepresti, all you guys are seem to be Seinfeld fanatics. It must be great to kind of just banter and go into a workplace and literally talk sports in Seinfeld, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say, CeeLo in particular, him and I used to get along and play a lot of the funny clips from behind, fan bloopers, stuff that you would never hear on the air. We'd have fun or reference certain movies or Seinfeld, but it's not, I think it's more just there are a lot of Seinfeld fans, obviously. I don't think it was just a coincidence that, oh, hey, look at us, we're Seinfeld fans working at the fan. I think the majority of people are probably diehard Seinfeld fans, especially our age group. So I don't know. I did notice when I worked at the Fan, the level of sports fandom. You think you know sports and you think you love sports, then you work there and you're like, oh my God, this is these guys are insane with this stuff. This is, for me, I was like, this is where I belong. But it wasn't like that with Seinfeld necessarily. There were a ton of people who you would reference with, but I think it would just be normal, just like you or I, if we hung out, and started talking about different likes, Seinfeld might be atop that list. I think that's probably a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it has something, I would think, too, to do with the locale. You're at a New York station. A lot of you guys you're originally from New York, right? Is that?
Yeah, Long Island. So that maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that because we talk about that sometimes with guests that we've had on in the past on this podcast, and there's a New York connection somewhere through this whole thing. I think that kind of is coming out with a lot of because that's the other thing is you always like to bring up New York. One of the good ones, I was just talking to someone about it, is in the parking garage episode where Jerry's like, there's no traffic is both ways all the time. There's no rush hour in New York. It's one of the lines he uses. He's like, there's no traffic's every which way all the time. You never have to. So little things like that they slip into almost every single episode.
And I'll tell you, as somebody who grew up on Long Island and loved the show, dating back years, I was still living in my parents' house for a long time. Moving into the city and having the opportunity to move into Manhattan and live on my own for 4 or 5 years, whatever it was, even though it was years later, it gave me a different level of appreciation for the show, because now I'm viewing it as a single, individual living in a apartment in Manhattan, and it's even more relatable to what I grew up watching. Then you start living that type of life. So I loved it even before I lived in an apartment in the city, and then after living in the apartment in the city, it becomes even more relatable. I loved it even more.
So your guy, Jimmy Trana, who was on our podcast, took a nice pic of you and Larry David. Where was that? You're meeting all these guys, Jerry, Larry. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I told you the Jerry one that, was that fan. He came in. So Trana and I became friends. Him and I, he was working at Sports Illustrated, and he wrote something nice one day about me being on the show with Mike. And then that we started emailing, and we became friends. He's from Long Island. I'm from here. We have been like legitimately good friends for many years now. And he's another one. We have a great connection with Seinfeld and all the references. He got invited to the Curb premiere. What year was that? It had to be it was like October 2017. So I forget the season. But he always gets these great invites. And a lot of the times he'll ask me, hey, do you want to go to this thing? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. Whatever. It's a party or a premiere. And this happened to be for Curb, one of the more recent seasons, not the last one, probably the one before that, October of 2017. So we go to the Curb premiere, we watch the two shows, and then they have an after party. I'm like, yeah, let's go to the after party. And legit everybody from the show is there. Even people that were not from the, what's his name? Aziz Ansari or whatever his name is, a comedian.
Yeah.
Him, I remember, because I was like, I went up to him and was like, oh, hey, my wife's a big fan. Can I get a pic? He would not take a picture. They like dismiss me, just completely rude. And I was like, all right, whatever, jerk, but whatever. Anyway, so it's everybody. Susie is there. Jeff. I'm pretty sure anybody that was, what's her name from The Sopranos? I forget her. Dr. Melfi.
Nice.
Lorraine Bracco.
Lorraine Bracco, yeah.
Couldn't be nicer. And Jimmy knew one of the people that she was there with. She took a picture. It was great to hang out with her. Anyway, where the whole point of him wanting to go to this thing was to meet Larry David. So I'm following Jimmy around. We're eating the food. We're running into all these people, kind of embarrassed, shy. We're nobodies in this party here. And you don't want to bother people. You don't want to look like you don't belong. But we were doing exactly that, looking like we don't belong and bothering people. We get down to where Larry is, and we're going through a crowd. He looks like he doesn't want to be bothered, but we're like, dude, we're both saying this. We're never going to have this chance ever again. Suck it up, bother him for 2 minutes, and let's move on. And that's what happened. And he went up to him and said something, hey, I'm Jimmy Trana, whatever. And then I went to take the picture, and these freaking phones, it looked like it was going to take, it didn't. And his picture got a little messed up where he wasn't looking or something like that. And then he took the picture for me, and now we each have pictures with Larry David, and that was it. But he wanted no part of it, which I respect. I get it. I knew that going in, but I still have that picture to be able to tell the story.
Yeah, I had a similar story with Larry David. Totally blew me off. So I had these great tickets because I used to work at the same parent company as Jimmy. So we were down at the Yankee, what's the inside called? The fancy seats, the legend seats.
The moat, as Francesca calls it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, in those legend seats, Francesca took a couple pictures of me, so I'll always give kudos there. But so anyway, Larry, he was sitting close to us, but then we finally saw him inside the legend seat. So I'm like, I got to go up to him. So I finally went up to him, got some courage. I go, Larry, I put the camera in his face. How about a picture? And he goes, no way. And he walked away. And then I just yelled, Larry. And he just through the exit, put his hand up again and goes, no way. And then that was the last I heard of Larry David. It was exactly how you would think he would do it. Right. Similar to you. Like, he wanted no part of it. And he was by himself watching the Yankee game.
But that's great. Well, I mean, that from watching the show, that's how he's going to be, which is why I didn't want to bother him. But hey, I mean, as big fans, you're only in that spot once, what are you going to do? Not bother him? I don't know. That's
great. That is so good. Man, it must be, walking around one of those parties, you don't know.
Weird experience. Yeah, I'm not necessarily for that. I haven't been to a lot of them. The majority have been because of Jimmy. I remember one time we went to one. It was Maxim party maybe, and some of the girls from Real World Road Rules Challenge were there, and I'm a huge fan of that. I was talking to them. I mean, just it's random. I don't know, celebrity. Even there was some people from the Jersey Shore there, and I happened to be a big fan, but they were looking at me like I was nuts. You feel weird in that spot because you don't belong, but you're like, oh my God, I've seen you on TV before. And then if it's somebody to the level of Larry David or Seinfeld, it's even more nerve-wracking and uncomfortable. So I don't love those situations. So
just name drop Francesa, you'll be good.
Yeah, well, it depends who you name drop him too, right?
So speaking of that, Sal, as we wrap up, we don't want to take too much of your time, but gun to your head, are you a dog or Mikey guy?
That's a tough question. Let me just give you the 100% truth on it. Growing up as a listener, dog was my favorite. I remember at the broadcasting school I went to, they had you fill out a paper and said, who's your favorite radio personality? Chris Russo was my favorite. But I always loved both. I loved the combo. And working there, getting to see them in real life, in that place, in person, was an incredible experience and a dream come true. And then getting to work on the show was mind-blowing, thinking about it. They both took care of me, Christmas bonuses and gifts. Dog one time for Christmas got me first-class tickets to Atlanta to see a Falcon game. You know, Mike would just, at the time of making no money, not that $1,000 ever, I mean, I could use that right now, certainly, but at the time I was making maybe $26,000 a year, Mike would give $1,000 Christmas bonus or whatever. It was, they took a private plane to the Super Bowl. So I've had great experiences with both of them. But then Dog left. And as much as I wanted to be close with both guys, Mike was the one who believed in me as an on-air talent. Mike was the one who got me my first on-air opportunity. Mike was the one who gave me on-air opportunities after Dog left. I mean, when Dog left, I did the picks, the Football Friday picks with Mike. And thinking about it, it's crazy. I did over-unders with him. So Mike helped my career. And still to this day, I text with him, and he's always supportive. So if I had to pick one, even though I was always a huge fan of Dog and I have no issues with Dog and he's always been great to me, Mike helped me out more so, I think, along the way. And after Dog left, we became closer because it was just me, Mike, and Eddie Erickson, another huge Seinfeld fan, by the way. He's a –
Oh, nice.
Oh, Eddie, he'd be a good guest. And he's got the memory. We would be in like going away for the Super Bowl. Matter of fact, we were both producing for Mike. We're there sharing a room together. Seinfeld episodes all night. He can't sleep with the TV off. So Seinfeld episodes all night. It was that and King of Queens, but for this purpose, Seinfeld in particular, huge Seinfeld fan. So we had another bond there. But anyway, I would say more of a Mike guy.
All right, and that just because this is a Seinfeld podcast, does Mike or Dog remind you of anyone from the Seinfeld cast? Like, is Mike like a Jerry? Doggy more like George?
Hey, no, Dog would be
Kramer.
Come
yeah,
on.
would,
Yeah.
I would think Dog's Kramer, right?
Yeah, Dog Kramer. They got that nutty personality, unlike anybody else. So I would say he would be Kramer. I don't think Mike would be a Seinfeld, but I'm trying to think of even some of the, side characters. No, I don't.
Peterman?
Yeah, I was thinking him. I don't know. No. Dog, definitely Kramer. I can't put Mike anywhere else or anybody else with Mike. Not off the top of my head, anyway.
I think Schmoozer's a George guy.
I could see that.
Me of George a little bit.
Steve's got some great story. It's a shame he doesn't. Not a Seinfeld fan. You could have him on. He's got some great story. He's fun to talk to.
Cool.
Yeah, we're looking to get him on, man. We're trying.
Well, now you're gonna just talk about the beef. I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, you mean talk about? Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I'd rather. You're right. No, we get his old. We'd like to hear the good times.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Sal, listen, we loved having you on.
Yeah, this was great, man. I really appreciate it.
And best of luck to you. Continued with SNY and WFAN, and get back on the horse with Seinfeld. I know you're a big fan, and it's fun to go through every single episode again. And
just bought. Now I'll hold you up because we're on Zoom. A few weeks ago, I was in a bookstore, and I saw this. I'm assuming you guys have this, right?
I don't
It's
have that one. I have an older version.
So the
Something
reason why I was saying I
similar.
assume you have it, it gives you an insight to all 169 episodes. So I saw this, I was like, well, I have to have this. And at the same time I saw that, I thought to myself, this is a perfect excuse to go back now and rewatch in chronological order the series again. It's been a while, so I'm due. Pandemic, home, maybe might get my wife into it, who's not a Seinfeld fan or never watched it, and read this at the same time. So I will do that. It's been on my list. I'm glad you guys had me on and have a chance to talk about it. Good luck with the podcast. I think it's an awesome idea. And maybe we'll do it again sometime soon.
Thank you, Sal. Yeah, and while rewatching, go back and listen to our old podcast. We went over every single episode. You can,
How many have you done? How many podcasts have you had so far?
This is 29, I believe, but the first 20, we went through every single episode. Like basically season by season, we did it. And
I am gonna check that out 100%. And I want
And
to.
Sal, our number one episode, you mentioned season 3 on, but our number one episode came from season 2. So rewatch that and tell us what you think.
Can I try to guess if I look at it what the number one episode is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from season 2.
All right. So that should give me an idea here. Season 2. Now I'm surprised you guys like that early stuff that much. The number one episode?
Yeah.
Hold on. Give me a sec here. Let me pull
Look,
this.
you like Mike looking up the.
Yeah, look it up in the
Get
book.
the book. Get the book.
book.
From season 2.
Get
All
the
right, I
book.
got it here, dog. All right, season 2. How many episodes were there? 17?
Yeah, no, it's like I think 12 or 11.
Oh, okay, even
It
less.
says 17 because that's 12.
Well, I like some of these. See, maybe I shouldn't have said the from season 3 on. I like some of these. The jacket, the baby shower. Did you go to the Chinese restaurant? That would be charming.
No.
The
The
phone
name,
message.
yes,
Yeah.
There you go.
yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the name might throw you off because it's not. You might not think that that's the name. The phone message, which goes back to what we were talking about before. I mean, a tape in a answering machine is
Right.
No one knows about that anymore. But that's
Love it.
Yeah.
Great one too.
Rewatch that one again, and you just cry. It's great.
I love it. It is the best show, and no joke. Like I would watch it with my father. It always put you, and it was always on, which is great. It always puts you in a great mood. If I'm down or depressed, you know what? Put on Seinfeld, laugh a little bit for the hour before bed, and it's great. It's therapeutic. I love it, and that's why I need to get back to that and bring some of those those laughs into my life at this point.
yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sal.
Thank
We
you,
really
guys.
Appreciate it, man. This was
Yep,
awesome.
appreciate it.
All right, we'll
Take
be in
care.
touch. Thank you. All right, later.